Welcome back, and I think some other people are going to filter in the next few minutes. Please continue to vote on your favorite Crowdfund Hero contestants over in the other building throughout the day until 2:30 p.m. Place your crowd dollars into the contestants' boxes. Again, at the end of the day, we're going to fund those one-to-one with real dollars, so please participate and support these entrepreneurs. I want to thank, before we dive in here, I want to thank one of our sponsors for making today possible. My City Journals helped us put this together and get the word out for us. So please we're appreciative of My City Journals. They're a great help for us for this year's conference. All right, we're going to go ahead and dive in for the first of two panels today. The first one is focused on rewards-based crowdfunding, how to raise big money through crowdfunding. I'm going to introduce you to our moderator, who will then introduce you to the panelists. Zach Smith is the co-founder of Funded.Today. Their firm has helped over 200 clients make over $50 million through rewards-based crowdfunding through sites such as Kickstarter.com and Indiegogo.com. And to boot, he was an accountant by education, right? I was an accountant by education too, so I kind of laughed. Zach graduated summa cum laude as a valedictorian from Weber State University's Goddard School of Business and Economics. The really cool thing is that, if we go back to, again, not many people have helped 200 clients raise $50 million. So, again, we have an expert, and he's put together an expert panel. Again, these are the top people in the United States. We have an excellent program today. Please welcome up Zach Smith, and he's going to introduce his panelists.
All right. Glad to be here today. So, on our panel today, we have my co-founder, Thomas Alvord. Thomas lives in Cedar Hills, Utah, with his wife, Melanie, and their two sons. He graduated from BYU with a law degree and a master's degree in public administration. He's an attorney with the Utah Bar. He's an avid proponent of the Pareto principle, or 80-20, which is what we focus on quite a bit at Funded.Today, and getting more results with less work. He has run marketing for many online digital campaigns, including for multiple U.S. presidential campaigns. He's in talks right now with a few, and multi-million-dollar political committees. He's also consulted with Fortune 500 companies on how to improve their digital marketing strategy. As co-founder and chairman of the board at Funded.Today, he's raised over $50 million in counting on Kickstarter and Indiegogo. He's the co-author of an upcoming book called Funded, and the creator of CrowdCon, which is a digital summit on crowdfunding coming soon. Welcome, Thomas. Second on the panel is Anders Loven-Holt. Anders joined Indiegogo about a year ago to manage the agency relationships and scale Indiegogo's partner ecosystem. He works closely with agencies and consultants as they help many of the biggest campaigns on Indiegogo maximize their funds raised. Indiegogo's network now includes over 100 partners that help campaigners with video, page design, campaign management, PR and digital advertising, and campaigns working with agencies now raise millions of dollars every month on Indiegogo. Before Indiegogo, Anders spent 2.5 years at AdRoll managing their direct response ad campaigns on Facebook and Google. That experience is carried over to his role in the crowdfunding world, as digital advertising now a significant strategy component for many of the biggest crowdfunding campaigns. Anders. Third on our panel is Jacob Durham. Jacob also graduated from BYU with a master's degree in accounting. Throughout college, Jacob worked at multiple startups and small businesses with the hopes of eventually starting his own. After graduating, he worked with an accounting firm to earn his CPA license. Then he worked with his family business, where he had worked off and on for about 8 years prior to sourcing and purchasing products from China. Then in the spring of 2014, so not too long ago, Jacob teamed up with his cousin John Richards and decided they were going to start a business. After researching all the avenues of starting a business, they determined that crowdfunding was the most promising method. Months later, they developed and launched their first product, the Basics Wallet. With a goal of $10,000, they were successfully able to receive $171,000. That followed with the Basics Notebook, which raised $383,000. And since those projects, they've successfully launched 2 more projects and raised over $1 million in counting. They've also been able to keep their momentum outside of Kickstarter, so they're able to continue a business on the site in order to support and grow their evolving team and company. Welcome, Jacob. And the last member of our panel is Bryce Fisher. Bryce loves trying to fund and run startups. He secured over $3.3 million in venture capital for his own ventures and raised over $1.8 million and counting, because he's got a project live right now, in personal crowdfunding projects. He sold his first startup in a multi-million-dollar acquisition to a billion-dollar company just 12 months after graduating from college. Bryce loves entrepreneurship and helping other small business owners be successful too. Welcome, Bryce. All right, for this forum, I've put together a bunch of questions to ask them based upon their own experience and expertise, and then I've also got questions that I want them all to kind of go around the horn and answer. Additionally, though, I want to get a lot of questions from you, and so you can see the hashtag right there on Twitter, UTCF 2016. I'll be checking my phone and looking at that, or you can just shout out a question, I guess, too, because I want to make sure we get all of your questions answered. Additionally, we have quite a few people from Funded.Today over in the other room there, so if you want to chat with the crowdfunding consultant or an expert, we have a couple people that will be able to help you, and then Thomas and I will be around for most of the day as well. I think, will you guys all be around pretty much for most of the day? All right, great. So, with that being said, who has run a crowdfunding campaign before? Okay. Who's thinking of running one? All right, okay, we're in the right spot then. Just seeing where we got the mix of people and what we can do to help you today. So, to start, let's kind of go around the horn and do some questions for the whole panel. I call this like the 3 best and 3 worst, and Bryce helped me with this. So let's just start right here with Bryce. As you look back, what were the 3 best things you did in your crowdfunding campaign?
The 3 best. Definitely collaboration with other projects. That was number 1. Working together with other people that have been successful. Number 2, looking at successful campaigns and dissecting what they're doing, how they're advertising, what they're doing on their social media, really trying to reverse engineer. That was number 2. And number 3, this isn't a plug, but we did work with Funded.Today, and it was awesome towards the end of our campaign. So those 3 things definitely helped us a lot.
I'd say one of the big things we learned was setting honest expectations with customers, making sure you're telling them honest dates of when you're going to be delivering, honest about quality. Any issues that come up, you communicate them early on. That was really good. Let's see, probably we used our backers while we were in our campaigns to run surveys and say, here's our product we've created so far. We think it's great. How can we make it better? And we do a little bit of product development during the campaign to make it even better along the way, leveraging those backers. And then the other thing was we learned the importance of a good advertising team to help us and to get our name out there. We also use Funded.Today as well. But yeah, that was a really important part of our strategy as well.
I think when I look at all the campaigns on Indiegogo and the ones that have failed, and especially the ones that were really promising, and we thought we had a really great product, and ultimately the campaign failed, what they almost all have in common is that they launched before they were ready, in one way or another. They set an arbitrary date for themselves. We want to launch by July 1st, or we want to launch the week after CES, or picking a date that seemed to make sense, and then pushing the launch for that date. And then ended up either not having their email list built, or the prototype wasn't ready and the media didn't want to write about it, or any other issue that happened because the campaign wasn't ready. And so you really only get one shot. So I think that's sort of the biggest, the worst thing that can happen. And also the best, I think waiting till you're ready is no matter what that means, whether it's a small or large campaign, waiting till you're ready is the most important thing.
All right. Thomas isn't a creator, so we'll probably skip him on that one. The 2 things that kind of stood out to me, and Bryce talked about cross collaborations. In more detail, what that means, if you want to actually go and take action with something like that, there's a lot of projects on Kickstarter and Indiegogo at any given time. A lot of them have similar products. So let's say you've got a pair of socks. I'm wearing Silver Air socks, and I have Wilcox boots on, both products that were funded through crowdfunding. They were running at the similar time. We could approach the socks and say, we've got the perfect pair of boots for you. You have 1,000 backers, we have 1,000 backers. We should tell each other about it. That's what cross-collaboration means. And there's lots and lots of opportunities to do that. And the best backers are Kickstarter and Indiegogo backers because they understand the process, they understand how to order, they're familiar with crowdfunding. That's a great strategy. And then what I heard from 2 panelists, under-promise, over-deliver. That's one of the biggest things you can do. We've heard Cool is Cooler mentioned a bunch of times today. It's not that the guy's dishonest. In fact, Thomas and I chatted with him, 2 days ago? We were actually on the phone with Ryan because he's looking for ways to raise money so that he can fulfill. And one of the things he's trying to do is ask his backers to give him more money because he simply doesn't have enough money to fulfill on the remaining thousands of orders he has. He's fulfilled on some and not others. Well, he had way too big of expectations and way too big of promises when in reality he should have understood where he was at, set his goals accordingly and given a better timeline. And that's the issue that he's faced. All right, next question. Same thing, but let's go 3 worst.
So, the 3 worst, I could probably only think of one really bad. I mean, when you're not transparent, like you talked about, the second you're not transparent about everything that's going on, I mean, you'll see it on that public comments list. I mean, people will just start a firestorm. And so, I mean, my number 1 is definitely be transparent, and the con is not being transparent, so.
Yeah. Along those lines, it's incredible. Your backers are smart. They know when you're feeding them something that isn't all, like, you're not going to lie to them, but if you're trying to bend the truth, they catch on quick. They see through it. One of the things that we did that was hard, and we've learned to try to not do it, is through stretch goals, it's very easy to increase your SKU count. If you have a bag and you introduce 2 colors, now you have 3 SKUs instead of 1, and that really hurts your margins and the time it takes to source all these things. It's a big pain. So really controlling your SKU counts is one thing that we learned. We tried really hard to say, this is our product set, and we're not going to expand that. If we're going to do a stretch goal, we do something else. And with our notebook, we went from, I think it was two SKUs to like 6 SKUs, and I mean, I've seen campaigns go from 1 SKU to like 50 SKUs, and they really get hurt by it. So just controlling your SKU count is a really important thing that can really help you out. Your SKU count, sorry, unique products. So let's say you're selling a shirt, and there are 6 sizes in that same shirt. You have 6 SKUs. So if you did one, like a white shirt, then 6 sizes, you have 6. So let's say now you offer a black shirt, you now have 12 SKUs. So a SKU is a unique product.
I think I added my worst last time, so I think I'm good.
Zach. So what I would add, having worked with so many different creators, is do not be in love with your product. Your goal is not to make your product work. Your goal is to find a product that the market wants. And so if you launch a product and the market doesn't respond to it, you haven't failed. Zach and I often talk about we often look at Kickstarter, Indiegogo, these crowdfunding platforms in terms of how much money could we go raise, but there's another side to the coin, which is crowd validation. If you can go validate whether the market wants a product or doesn't want the product, so you don't go spend the next 2 years wasting your time on something that doesn't have that much of a future, or even if it does have a future, it's not that bright. And so focus on success and not necessarily your product. So if you have the entrepreneur drive and you want to create something, realize the first product you launch or the second, that's not your whole life. That's not, what your entire history of entrepreneurship is going to be. Like these guys here, they've all launched multiple products, and have that same view. When you're going to launch a product, don't love your product so much, because we see that where we work with the client and it doesn't convert. There's not the demand for it, but they want to keep chasing after it, thinking it's something that's great. And I think the first time any of us have an idea or a product and it fails, it kind of hits our ego and it kind of hurts. But I think a serial entrepreneur, they realize, hey, I might not get it right, and you go again. So that would be my take on it.
All right. Question for Bryce, and let's do Jacob as well on this. What did you have to learn as you go for your first crowdfunding campaign?
Yeah, I mean, one of the reasons we did crowdfunding is because I've been through the whole VC process, and I wanted to keep the VCs out and keep the equity in my hands. And so we searched the internet, we Googled everywhere, we were trying to find some resources to teach us, what was the best way, what is the best way to crowdfund. And I mean, you have to this is something we're learning on the second round, but we learn on the way, is analytics. You have to look at the analytics. We struggled so long to find a tracking method to track conversions. We tried the UTM codes, we tried the goal tracking, which you can't plant pixels. So It took forever for us to discover that way to track, but the analytics speak. Once you can figure out, okay, I spent X amount today, and I drove X amount today, am I positive ROI? And once you can see, 2, 3x, 4x ROI, then you can scale your marketing and, really drive from there. So watching the analytics is something we learned going along the way.
Perfect. And Thomas can maybe speak to this a little bit more in terms of the analytics. At Funded.Today, we've developed a system for tracking to make up. Indiegogo is actually a lot better in terms of being able to track, but on Kickstarter, the other platform, we've developed a way to track so that you can see every dollar you spent and every dollar you raised. And we track that through Google Analytics and Kickstarter's dashboard and our own proprietary dashboard. And we use something called earnings per view.
Yeah, so one of the most, and here's something else. You might look at projects on Kickstarter, and they might have raised $500,000 or $1 million. And there's 2 projects that come to mind that this happened just within the last month, 2 months. You look at those projects, and you might think, oh my goodness, man, these guys are killing it. I wish I could have that. What you don't see behind the scenes is that their products are actually really horrible. And we know because we've worked with them. So one project in particular, they raised $1 million, but they actually spent $1 million in marketing. And their whole goal was to get into a big retail chain. So, and there was another product that had raised $500,000, and they wanted us to help with some stuff. And we looked at their numbers, and they were the worst numbers I literally have ever seen on any product. Like, there were other crowdfunding products that had only raised $5,000 who had better numbers than the $500,000. It's just that this $500,000 raise, this guy had tons of affiliates who mailed for him because he was connected with a lot of affiliates. And so really, in all of this, what matters is what like Zach was mentioning, this is the metric that we find most important. What's your earnings per visitor? Which basically says, on average, for every visitor who goes to your webpage, and it's not just crowdfunding, it's any e-commerce, for every visitor that goes to your webpage, on average, how much does your average visitor generate in sales, okay? And that metric allows you to see how well it's converting. So for example, if you have a product, and there's good products out there like this, where the earnings per visitor is $2. So literally, on average, every visitor who goes to that page raises $2 for your campaign. Well, now you know you can go buy traffic on Twitter or Pinterest or Facebook or Google, and if on average you're making $2, if you can get a click for 50 cents, well, you have a 1 to 4 ROI. So that's one of the metrics we like to look at. I don't really care how much a campaign has raised. Really, what's your EPV? Because that's going to give you an idea for how the market is. How do the consumers who will be buying this, do they really like it? Do they engage with it? The higher the EPV, the more promising the product, both for the crowdfunding campaign and after.
Okay. Jacob, what did you have to learn as you go?
When I started doing the Kickstarter route, one of the things I really wanted to learn was social media, how to capitalize on social media. And we went through a couple different routes with my business partner and I. First, we started off saying we're going to contact all of our friends and family. And with our wallet, that helped. We wanted to get $10,000 as our goal. With our friends and family, we probably got to $2,000. We posted there. We toyed around a little bit with paid advertising online ourselves. And we thought, by the end, through these means, we could probably get, $20,000, $30,000 if we're lucky. And then we started doing paid advertising with Funded.Today. And it was incredible, the change. It was pretty immediate. And within a couple of days, our hopes went from 20 to 30,000 to maybe we can make 100,000, maybe 150,000. So the power of, it's kind of scary when you're doing this for the first time. We didn't have any money. And so saying that we're going to pay for something, it was impossible for us to conceive of. So we were very, very hesitant to do it. But once we just said, okay, this is what we have to do, and we did it, the results were pretty quick and pretty drastic. So that was a huge learning curve for us, is the power of paying to get eyeballs on your site. It's very important.
Great. All right, Anders, one for you now. What are some common misconceptions or pitfalls that you see teams run into as they hope for that really, really successful crowdfunding campaign?
Yeah, so I think I'm going to echo the other 3 guys up here when I say I think a lot of people look at a crowdfunding campaign and they see a campaign raise $500,000 or $1 million, and they don't see how much work has gone into that, whether or not it's a good product or a bad product. To raise that much money, it takes a lot of effort, and you have to have all the pieces in place. And so I think people think if they have a good product, that it's going to sell itself, or that if they just put the product up on Indiegogo or Kickstarter, that those platforms get millions of eyeballs every single month, and so people there are just going to flock to the campaign. Or that even if they just get a really good press placement, that you know, if the Gizmag writes about it, that you're going to get a lot of traffic there. And really, it's a combination of all those things. But I think in addition to having a great product, I think you know, an email list may be the second most important thing in having a successful campaign, because a good email list allows you to have early momentum. And early momentum is what gets you additional conversions. So when people come to your page and they see that you've raised $100,000 in the first day, there's some credibility there, and they're going to be really excited about the product and see that other people have also been excited about it. And the press is important too. Having, you know, those press in place means that when people do come to the page, that they're going to see that, and there's going to be some credibility there. But I think making sure that when you launch, you have an email list in place, and then being willing to and being prepared to drive traffic to the page if you're really hoping to hit that $500,000 or $1 million number is going to be really important, because that's something that we've seen almost every campaign that's hit those thresholds has done all of the above, and especially including the driving traffic and the digital advertising component.
Yeah, I love that. The title of this panel is How to Consistently Raise Big Money Through Crowdfunding. And 5 years ago, you probably could put a project on Kickstarter and Indiegogo and do well. 3 years ago, 2 years ago maybe even, but now it's super saturated. And if you think you can just go and create a nice viral type video, post it on a crowdfunding website, and raise a lot of money, you're simply mistaken. A good friend of ours, I don't even know if he's in the audience or not, but does anybody remember the Krabby Wallet? Krabby Wallet? Yeah, okay. Literally, to this day, he will tell you he did nothing, and he raised $325,000 for his wallet to launch it on Kickstarter. Sad story, he tried launching about a year ago and tried doing the same thing and didn't even raise $30,000, I don't think. So you can't just put a project on a crowdfunding website and hope to raise money anymore, even if it's a really good product, which his product was really good the second time around, probably even better than his wallet. But now it's about directly finding the one and then scaling that one exponentially through things like paid media if you're going to consistently raise good money. All right, Thomas, question for you. What roles do margins and turning a profit play in running a crowdfunding campaign? We talked earlier, I heard a speaker earlier talk about a lot of times people run a crowdfunding campaign and they don't make money. We don't necessarily like that because we want you to have some startup capital to play with. Granted, there are a lot of advantages. You've got product validation, which is huge. You can take that number to retailers and wholesalers and get deals with Walmart or QVC or leverage that for Shark Tank like a lot of our clients have. That being said, sure. The question.
So, you know, I remember seeing on Quora and some other places people asking, oh, can you have a crowdfunding campaign and actually make money yourself, right? And I think maybe I had that same notion for if I go launch, if somebody launches a campaign, you know, is it just for them to raise the money to go build it, or can they actually turn a profit? Now, so in terms of margins and turning a profit, I don't think anybody should ever launch a campaign, assuming it's like a consumer product you're trying to sell, right? If you're trying to raise money to do some film project or art and you just need the money for that, then yeah, maybe you're not trying to turn a profit. But most of what we do is, you know, consumer products that you would then market post-Kickstarter as well. And you have to make sure you have good margins, because we've run into numerous people who have great ideas, but they hardly have any margin. And if you don't have any margin, you can never have a budget, a marketing budget to scale for your crowdfunding campaign. You're not really going to have a marketing budget post-Kickstarter, and you're not really going to have much margin to hire other people to build a team and actually grow a company. So again, if you want to go like do some art project or film project and you just need the money for the actors and the film equipment or something, then that's fine. But you got to make sure that you have good margins. Actually, the Basics team is probably one of the best teams that I know of who always have exceptional margins. And when they're building their product, they're looking at their margin and what their margin is to make sure they're able to scale. And on a side note, sometimes you need to pivot. We just worked with a company called Breton on Kickstarter, and they raised $250,000. Well, when they launched, they probably were only going to raise about $15,000 to $30,000. And they were manufacturing their bag with some Italian leather, and so their margins were horrible. They couldn't put any money into marketing. Their price point was really high. So they tweaked things. They dropped their price $100. It gave more room for a marketing budget, and they ended up, instead of raising $25,000, they've raised $250,000 now. So you have to have margins if you want to launch something that you can turn into a business.
And guess how rapidly that happened, too? That's the power of crowdfunding and product validation. That change happened within 48 hours, and they went from potentially raising $12,000 to $15,000 to nearly $250,000, $241,000 raised, and they're still raising money, Indiegogo in demand. That's the power of being able to pivot like that, and that's what crowdfunding affords.
And just to echo that, our team, when we talk to campaigners, we have a team that talks to campaigners who are thinking of running a campaign, and the first question in qualifying the campaign is always, what is your cost of goods sold, and then what's your price point? And that gives us a really good sense of how serious these guys are and how successful they're able to be if they've set their price point with a healthy margin based on their actual costs.
Yeah,
I have something speaking to price point. I did a little study about prices on Kickstarter, and I found that you can find, there's things like phone chargers on Kickstarter. If you go to Walmart, you look for a phone charger that has similar, specs and things, it'll cost maybe $5. Look on Kickstarter, it's $25. As I studied a lot of high projects that raise a lot of money, their prices are generally 2, 3, 10 times more than what you could find on the market. And that's because it's an innovative product. You have to have confidence in what you're doing to say, I have something that these people can't find anywhere else, and what I've put time into is worth a lot of money. And be confident to set a higher price. People on Kickstarter generally have excess income, and they're here because they want something new and innovative. So be confident to price it a little higher to give yourself that margin, and don't sell yourself short once you've created a great product.
I love that. And these guys do create great products. We have the Breton backpack over in there in that other room if you want to look at it and just see how high quality it is. We also have their basics wallets and their basic notebook. And you can see these aren't crappy, horrible products. They're actually very classy, very nice, the type of thing that you'd bring to like a fancy meeting kind of thing. So very, very good points. Bryce, question for you. Bryce has raised a ton of money and he does it really quickly. You were able to rapidly get both of your crowdfunding campaigns funded within the first few days, or in the most recent case, within the first hour. How did you do it? And what are you doing to continue?
Yeah, I mean, it kind of ties in with the last thing these guys were saying. So one of the biggest assets you have, the number one tactic, the number one most important thing to Kickstarter and crowdfunding is to make sure that your paid advertising is going in front of people who know what Kickstarter, crowdfunding, and this sort of pre-sale is. Yes, other methods work, but if you want to see super high conversions, you have to get in front of those people. So how does that translate to Zach's question is, for this second campaign, we have 7,000 backers, and we've seen that about 7 to 10% of those are converting from our email list. So that first 15 minutes, we funded 20,000 in 15 minutes, and that comes from our original backers. And then to carry that momentum forward, you have to make sure your advertising is getting in front of those people. You're creating Facebook ads targeted on audiences that know, he talked about a boot, and then going after a collaboration with somebody that's doing a sock. The same is similar when you're doing your Facebook ads. You want to be targeting people in those same demographics. One thing we've learned this round is, the Ravean brand, they are not campers. Our audience is more fashion-oriented. We went after this camping product, and so I've had to rework and find audiences that are more camping-oriented because my audience wasn't working. And so, just...
Great. All right, question for the whole panel. I want to talk about some rewards, as they're called on Kickstarter, or perks, as they're called on Indiegogo strategy. There's a lot of research out there that suggests too many choices can limit a person's ability to make a purchasing decision. In that light, how many possible rewards did all of you offer? And Thomas can speak to this based upon the breadth of products we've worked on. Did you see this as too few or too many? Were people attracted to just a couple of them? Let's start with Anders.
Great. Well, I think, there you go. Mic coming through here? Yeah, there we go. Yeah, so when it comes to perks, I think one of the most important things is to make sure that you have a high order value, or as high as you can get. And so if you have a product that isn't a particularly highly priced product, I think the first thing to think about is how you can create a larger value basket. And so without adding too many SKUs, as the other panelists have mentioned, I think trying to find a way, looks like we're having a little trouble. Oh, there we go. Trying to find a way to increase that order value is really important. And so I think upselling is an important part of any perk strategy, capitalizing on your existing backer community and backer momentum. And so, oh, there we go. So capitalizing on your existing backer community is really important. And so taking someone who's already backed your product and seeing if they want to purchase another product or upgrade to different components that might work with it. And you can do this through a number of different ways. You can run, say, a referral contest where you ask your current backers to refer friends and reward them in some way. And you can also do things like run flash sales with, like, say, a secret perk where you're making a perk at a low price for just a weekend or just a 24-hour period or something. So I think there's a number of different creative ways that you can do this, but I think the focus should be on driving up the value of your current backers, in addition to finding whole new backers who are willing to invest in your product. Because I think, as the other panelists have mentioned, it's sometimes hard to find that audience and find people who are willing to back a product 6 months before it ships. And so capitalizing on someone who's already demonstrated that intent and that willingness to participate in this kind of system is your best strategy.
Thomas?
Yeah, so there's three things kind of that I'll comment. The first is so with like Kickstarter and Indiegogo on the left side of the page, you're going to have all of your rewards. Sometimes we have clients who, put one pledge level for the medium shirt and another one for the large shirt and another one for the extra large. And then there's like 30 pledge levels, and it's so confusing. Like, sometimes I look at a page that I'm reviewing and I seriously wonder how they have any backers, because I don't even know what the pledge levels are saying. Like, it's so confusing. So I guess some people it's a surprise, when they get the order in the mail. I don't know. But you want to make it as simple as possible, right? So if you have a shirt, you have the shirt, and then later people are choosing, the size and the color. So that's the first thing. Make the pledge levels as simple as possible. The second is, and this isn't necessarily the pledge levels, but how you present the pledge levels, where you can have some anchoring. So in psychology, when you have an anchor and it sets kind of the benchmark, and then you have another price, you can convey a better deal and actually have it be a better deal. So what I often tell people is have an early bird price point, or even a super early bird, and with the pledge levels you can specify how many available units there are, and you can add more to it as the campaign goes on. But I like to tell people to have an early bird price point, have a Kickstarter price point, and then have a retail or estimated retail price point. And you don't necessarily put the estimated retail price point in your pledge levels, but you might have like an infographic on your page. Because then if people come and they see, oh, this watch, retail is going to be $60. Right now, you just told them the value of your watch is $60, right? They don't really have much else to go on, especially because the product's not even created. You're just saying, here's what I'm creating. So if you say it's $60, and then you say the Kickstarter price is $50, and then the early bird is $45, when they get there and they see that $45 price point, they're like, man, this is a great deal. I'm going to buy it, right? And then what you can do is you can continue to create more availability for that price point. Additionally, what you can do for the early bird, what you can do is actually let the early bird price point fill up and just have your regular Kickstarter price point and see what your earnings per visitor is. And knowing what your cost of goods sold are, you can see where do I make the most money? Is it at the $45 price point or is it at the $60 price point? So you can actually do a little bit of testing to see how your market responds to the price. But at the end of the day, people love a deal. So if you can have some of that anchoring, and one of the things, you know, seeing how effective this is, Funded.Today recently launched a cash back program. So if you go to Funded.Today, which is our website, there's a cash back link, and you can actually sign up, and any of the products that we're working with, which is about 30 to 50 at any given time, on our email list, or you can just log in and go to any of those projects, and you'll get 10% cash back. So if you go back something for $100, you're going to get $10 back. And we found that's something that people love, because you can find amazing products, and then, you know, the creators that we work with, they love it as well because it drives, you know, so many additional sales.
And in terms of looking to see how those infographics and the anchoring works, we've tested this with quite a few clients. If you want to look up a few to see what that infographic looks like and how to position it right and how to name your rewards and position a lower price reward against a higher price reward, you can look at SolSocks, S-O-L-E Socks, S-O-C-K-S. Just go to Google, SolSocks Kickstarter, or Betterback. And both those products are here as well if you want to look at them and what they turned out to be. But Betterback, a lady named Catherine Krug, she just got a deal on Shark Tank actually as well with QVC and Lori Greiner. Both those, you can see how the infographic was built, how we positioned the early bird price, the Kickstarter price, and the expected retail price, and made people create a sense of scarcity and urgency such that they would act within that 30 to 60-day span of the Kickstarter campaign. Yeah, Soul Socks, just like your sole of your foot, S-O-L-E, and then Socks, S-O-C-K-S. If you just Google that, it'll probably bring up the Kickstarter. Go to the campaign tab, and the same thing with Betterback. Betterback, just Google that, and you can see what those infographics look like. It's become a template that we use for pretty much every single campaign now. All right.
You mind if I say something real
Go
quick?
ahead, yeah.
So you guys actually already said it, but I break it down really simple. Like when I approach the rewards, and we've gone through a lot of tests, not a lot of testing, but a lot of mistakes to figure this out with the help of Zach and Funded.Today. Number one, these platforms are not traditional e-commerce platforms. So you're not going to have, that's the first thing to remember. It's not traditional e-commerce. And you'll see what I mean when you work the back end. Number two, simplicity. Just like Thomas said, simplicity. Our first round, we had like 80 SKUs. We had so many SKUs. We were like the Bobacks on roids as far as SKU count goes. And so simplicity. There's so many things you can do. You can bank your high value on upsells on a single unit, on a single pledge reward level. And then the third, just like Zach just said, the key is scarcity. You have to create scarcity, whether that's lining the pledge levels, limited amounts, special SKUs. You know, I asked Kickstarter for permission. I can actually watch a pledge level go down to 20 left and, you know, keep adding to that if I want to keep that level open. So you can keep the scarcity with limited quantities. Scarcity is the tactic, for sure.
I love that. That's great. At this point, I want to make sure we're looking up your tweets for the hashtag UTCF 2016. That's Utah, like a U-T, Tom, C, F 2016. UTCF 2016 as I struggle coming up with some things there. But we do have one question on there right now from Reef Life Restoration. What's the best platform for a social element, like saving the coral reef? A lot of what we do up here is rewards-based, and Anders can actually speak to this because he is pretty familiar with some of the social elements that Indiegogo is doing. So maybe we'll let him start with that, and then anybody else who wants to jump in. And then again, the hashtag is UTCF 2016. If you don't have Twitter, maybe just ask for a mic to get passed around. And
we have a mic. We have a couple mics here too. We can
perfect.
walk around. Just direct us.
Okay, perfect. Yeah. Does anybody at this point? Does anybody have a question too? Okay, great. Yeah, let's get some mics around, and let's answer that one while the mics are getting passed around.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, sure. So I think when it comes to Indiegogo, I think one unique element of Indiegogo is that we have sort of two audiences. We have our audience that's really interested in new and innovative products, and this would be a lot of the entrepreneurial products, the tech-based campaigns, the campaigns that the rewards-based campaigns that we're talking about. And we also have a generosity side, a side that's focused on giving, nonprofit, and then social impact. And so there is some overlap here in some cases where we have campaigns that are entrepreneurial, but they also carry a social impact with them. When it comes strictly to giving, we actually have our own domain for that. It's generosity.com, and that's for actual nonprofit and personal cause giving. And so that's always been a core part of Indiegogo and the founding, is having that social impact and sort of having that for good as part of our mission, in addition to helping people launch businesses and have really cool gadgets. And so I think that's definitely something that there's a huge portion of the Indiegogo audience is very interested in the social impact side of things, and that's the reason they come to the site.
And let me add one other thing. So often, or every now and then, we get some product that, hey, if you buy this, we're going to donate 10% to save the whales or to help the children in Africa or something like that. And usually it's related to the product. Literally, like, pretty much every single time, I actually can't think of a single time we've worked with one of those projects that we have been able to get it to raise money. And we've thought about this a lot. And so if you have an idea where you're like, oh, I want to do this, but also have some social good, our recommendation is this: have it be one or the other, but not both, at least out of the gate. 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 Out of the gate.